My point of view with that, and really for our entire organization, is flexibility. I think any general manager, any head coach in the NFL just wants flexibility. The ability to acquire more talent, the ability to move around, and really take advantage of opportunities that present themselves.
This is the tale of two different timelines and why things will come together for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears starting in 2023. In an ideal world, you want to bring in talent for your second year quarterback. In an ideal world, the Bears would have solidified their offensive line and brought in weapons for Justin Fields last season. The problem was never that the front office didn't believe in Justin Fields. It was always about resources and turning this entire team around. Walking into 2022, the Bears were without a first-round pick, had an aging roster with some really awful contracts, and were not a playoff contender. The time to build around Justin Fields didn't line up with Ryan Poles' vision until 2023. It was not his fault. It was not Justin Fields' fault. It was just the realization of what happened in this situation. In order to build a championship caliber team around Justin Fields, hard decisions had to be made. The salary cap situation had to be fixed, and the team had to get younger. Ryan Pace traded away way too many first-round picks and overpaid aging veterans. 2023 is now upon us, and Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham have no more excuses. They are now armed with the most cap space in the entire league and have a nice haul of draft picks, including number 1 overall. It is now time for Ryan Poles to put his stamp on this roster and prove his worth as a general manager. People love to make comparisons. They will compare Justin Fields' situation with that of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Zach Wilson, etc., etc. The problem is every situation is very different. A lot of people love to compare the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Chicago Bears. This one is interesting because in some ways, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence will always be compared. They come from the same area and have unanimously been seen as top QB prospects in their class for nearly a decade. They battled in the Elite 11 and twice in the college football playoffs, with Trev getting victory in the first match and Fields taking home the rematch. Both players were then first-round picks and have looked like promising young franchise quarterbacks, showing elite flashes over 2 seasons in the NFL. Moving on to the NFL, they will say, Trev is in his second season and the GM brought in talent, and now look, the Jags are in the playoffs. If you dig a little deeper, though, and compare the timelines of the Jags and the Bears, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. We're just a year behind in the timeline. Fields and Lawrence were drafted the same year, but our rebuilds were on different timelines, thanks to Ryan Pace constantly trying to force open a championship window and trading away valuable draft picks. Think about it this way. After taking Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick in 2021, the Jags entered last offseason again, armed with the number 1 overall pick and the most cap space in the league. Sound familiar? The Jags went wild in free agency and brought in talent on both sides of the ball. They spent over $250 million during the 2022 free agency period. They weren't able to trade the number 1 pick because there wasn't a quarterback other teams were interested in. But they took Tavon Walker, a stud defensive lineman prospect. Just like that, the Jags are now in the playoffs. Even though Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions, he has enough talent around him to win a playoff game. Think about that for a moment. Justin Fields had to play like Superman this season to even give us points. If he threw 4 interceptions in a game this season, we would have given up 50 plus points easily. But back to the comparison with the Jags, the situation that Ryan Poles entered this season was drastically different. For starters, the Bears didn't even have a first-round pick this year, and the salary cap was a mess. Also, this year's free agent class wasn't very good, and our cap was definitely not ready to compete with teams like the Jags. Fast forward 1 year to 2023, and what do you know? All of a sudden, we find ourselves in a very similar situation to the Jags just a year later. Now, it is the Chicago Bears who have the most cap space in the NFL and the number 1 overall pick. It just happens to be our quarterback's 3rd year instead of his 2nd. And that is the tale of 2 different timelines and why our situation was not comparable to the Jags or any team in the NFL this season for that matter. Now Ryan Poles, by tearing this roster down, trading away vets, and making the tough decisions, has put us in a very similar situation. Franchise quarterback, check. Tons of cap space, check. Top pick in the NFL draft, check. Bonus, the Bears have the opportunity to shop that pick that the Jags didn't have, potentially helping us out even more. The 2023 Chicago Bears are in an even better position heading into the offseason than the Jags were last offseason. We don't have quite as much talent on the roster, but we have even more flexibility.
My point of view with that, and really for our entire organization's flexibility, I think any general manager, any head coach in the NFL just wants flexibility. The ability to acquire more talent, the ability to move around, and really take advantage of opportunities that present themselves.
Ryan Poles' job is nowhere near complete, but he has taken a team that had an overrated, aging roster with most of its assets on the defensive side of the ball and turned it into one of the youngest rosters in the league. This team led the NFL in snaps by rookies by over 1,000 snaps. And now we have more flexibility than most GMs even dream about. His job is far from finished. The jury is still out on Ryan Poles, but he has put the 2023 Chicago Bears in a very unique position and has the opportunity to truly put his stamp on this roster in the next couple of months. Just 4 months from now, this roster will look drastically different. Ryan Poles is facing one of the most important off seasons in Chicago Bears history, but without his help, we wouldn't be in this position. So far, Ryan Poles is doing things the right way. Fans always want to find things to complain about and have hated on the Chase Claypool trade, the Roquan trade, and the drafting of Kyler Gordon and Velus Jones Jr. Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears had a tough season, but are finally in a position to dramatically improve this roster in just one offseason and continue improving it in years going forward. This team will be much improved in 2023 and have a chance, just like the Jags, to go from worst to first. The NFC North is wide open for the taking right now. The Packers are on the way down. The Vikings were just exposed that they were not as good as their record indicated. The Lions also feature a young, exciting roster, but I'm not scared of Jared Goff. We all know it comes down to quarterback play at the end of the day. So Justin Fields' continued development is imperative, but adding talent around him is just important. If you look at every successful quarterback around the NFL, they all have one thing in common: talent around them. The 49ers and Brock Purdy are the biggest proof. With a scheme like Kyle Shanahan's, playmakers like Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk on offense, paired with a top 5 offensive line and defense, almost any quarterback can have success. It's a common theme. Successful quarterbacks have reliable weapons on offense. Good offensive lines only make things better, but every top QB has a number one option and other targets he likes. Mahomes has his Travis Kelce. Allen has his Diggs. Dak has his CD. Burrow has his Chase and Higgins. I could keep going all day. It's what this offseason is about, but it's not just about weapons on offense. It's about adding talent on the entire roster. While watching the playoffs the next few weeks, pay attention. Every one of these teams left has a good defense, and they can put points on the board. The one team in the playoffs that I believe had a bad defense was the Minnesota Vikings, and they were exposed. Sorry, Penguin. Defense still wins championships, but you also need a quarterback and weapons on offense as well. That is what this offseason is all about. Ryan Poles has more ammunition than any GM in Bears history to add talent this offseason, paired with ultimate flexibility. This roster will finally start to take the shape of Ryan Poles' vision very soon. Stay tuned, guys. I'll be here covering every move with daily videos and updates. Stay tuned. Hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.
This is a common term when a team has the number one pick. Are the Chicago Bears open for business?
Yeah, we're always open for business. I think I proved that last year. It was a different part of the draft, but again, value. Does the value make sense? Does it help our organization? And that's what will be the guideline for us to make those decisions. My point of view with that, and really for our entire organization, is flexibility. I think any general manager, any head coach in the NFL just wants flexibility. The ability to acquire more talent, the ability to move around, and really take advantage of opportunities that present themselves.
Shout out to Swiss Sports Network with all the latest news on the Bears. Keep doing your thing. Just hope you have a good day, man, and I just want to say bear down.